future president is moving quickly to fill the clown car and before he changes his mind and fires them all.
Overnight, Trump announcing that Pete Hegseth, best-selling author, will lead the Department of Defense.
It's all ideology and it's all quite frightening. And I don't think anybody can defend this choice.
He has now nominated Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz as Attorney General.
Two different texts from different people at the Justice Department who just used the word insane.
So President-elect Trump is appointing people to his cabinet. This has triggered a firestorm in D.C. and in the media, which we're going to take a look at. But first, let's understand where he is at in the process with the official announcements and the ones that we're still waiting for.
Overnight, Trump announcing that Pete Hegseth, the best-selling author, the combat veteran, and co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, will lead the Department of Defense. Trump writing, "Nobody fights harder for the troops, and Pete will be a courageous and patriotic champion of our peace through strength policy." Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe is heading back to the government. He's Trump's pick for CIA director. He's spoken out frequently about the threat China and Iran pose. He's also accused some in the intelligence community of political misinformation. Trump writing, "Ratcliffe has been a warrior for truth and honesty with the American public. When 51 intelligence officials were lying about Hunter Biden's laptop, there was one, Ratcliffe, telling the truth to the American people."
He has now nominated Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz as Attorney General of the United States. He just wrote this on Truth Social. Quote, "Matt is a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney, trained at William and Mary College of Law, distinguished himself in Congress through his focus on achieving desperately needed reform at the Department of Justice. Few issues in America are more important than ending the partisan weaponization of our justice system. Matt will end weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore Americans' badly shattered faith and confidence in..."
The former and future president is moving quickly to fill the clown car and round out his cabinet before he changes his mind and fires them all. Moments ago, Trump announced that he has selected Fox Weekend morning show host, you can't make this up, Pete Hegseth, to serve as Secretary of Defense, because why not?
Compare this to 16, right? When there were some people that came in from outside of MAGA world, however it was in its infancy, and they were going to be normal Republicans or normalized Trump. That's not this go-round. In fact, he's bringing in the likes of Pete Hegseth from Fox News to be Secretary of Defense. And look, Hegseth himself has 20 years as a National Guardsman. Good for him. He also represented the Koch brothers to try to help privatize the VA. So he's bringing in these super conservatives. And I think it's the loyalty test first, conservative.
Look, I don't, he looks great. I mean, but he sounds terrible. And I think that if it's not broke, don't fix it. There's this fiction that there's something wrong with America's military. What problem are you trying to solve? We have the most lethal, the most respected, the most feared military in the history of the world. There's not even number two. And so the idea that our military, there's something wrong with it, our generals are terrible, this is a fiction. And so when you start trying to solve non-existent problems with the best fighting force in the world, you actually create problems. And I don't think there's any evidence or any data that shows that having women involved in our military has made our military worse. Where is the evidence of this? This is all fiction, it's all ideology, and it's all quite frightening. And I don't think anybody can defend this choice. This is not somebody who, I mean, he's a Fox News host who used to be in the military. If that's the standard we're going to be going with, I think.
He also picked, you ready? Co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Not even like regular. Weekend. Pete Hegseth. Yeah. Okay, Pete Hegseth. And he's picked him to be U.S. Secretary of Defense. Now, MAGA supporters and detractors are trying to figure out what? Because
this is exactly what we worried about and we warned about Donald Trump, which is that he is going to appoint unqualified loyalists to shape this government into his own personal fiefdom and get revenge on generals and put essentially really unqualified people. I appreciate Mr. Hegseth's service in our armed forces. But being a serviceman, it does not make you qualified to lead the Department of Defense and to have access to our nuclear weapons. I'm very disturbed by this, and I'm very concerned about what it demonstrates about Donald Trump's priorities, which now seem to be coming true as many.
I want to have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years. I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth the chance.
Because he's got two insiders?
All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, that list you
think he ought
that
to
list
be
you just gave is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on. In the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying. How
did it go?
In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians were responsible for.
So you make a good point. The civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out, and it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters, and he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency, but a bunch of them. Now, look, they've got to perform. They've got to perform. We've got 53 U.S. senators that are Republicans, and Pete Hegseth, he's an American hero. The man won 2 Bronze Stars for his service, and he's been a champion for veterans. He's going to have to go up there just like everybody else and prove his knowledge of how to do this job. He's not immune from that, but we ought to give this man a chance, in my opinion.
Well, Katie, I've gotten 2 different texts from different people at the Justice Department who just used the word insane to respond and react to this potential appointment, and then also questioning whether Matt Gaetz can be confirmed. And one person asked me to research whether anyone had ever been nominated for the post of Attorney General who had been investigated by the Justice Department. We'll have to look into that, but my initial reading is that I can't think of any time that's ever happened in American history. So, look, I was over at the Justice Department earlier today doing some reporting on this question of how are career officials responding to this election result. What do they plan to do? There is no plan for a mass exodus among career officials. As Andrew said, they are used to serving Republicans and Democrats. They are used to changing policies on a dime. And look, we can't prejudge. I mean, Matt Gaetz may become a different person if he gets confirmed as Attorney General. But what he's shown so far as a member of Congress is disdain for the department.
Are you not entertained? I mean, this is the most entertaining transition I've ever seen. No, I was as surprised as Paula, because it's not a name that we had seen. We'd seen some reporting, a lot of different names, frankly, a lot of really sort of well-heeled Washington legal types that were on the list. So I'm as surprised as anyone. But what I take away from this is that this is a president-elect who is feeling his power. I mean, this is someone who is appointing people to things, whether it's Gaetz or anything else we've seen today, who is feeling his power, feeling his influence, doesn't feel like he's in a mood to negotiate with the people in Washington, D.C. He's here to do what he wants to do, and he's going to expect the Republicans to fall in line. Now, all these people, whether it's Gaetz or Hegseth or anyone else, have to go to confirmation and go through these committee hearings and prove themselves like anyone else. But it is apparent to me that Trump is in a decisive mood and is not someone who's interested in picking things that he would consider to be watered down. So
take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations. I'll be happy to fund my political operation through the work of hardworking Americans, $10 and $20 and $30 at a time, and you all keep showing up at the lobbyist fundraisers and see how that goes for you. I reserve.